All right. Well, welcome back, guys, to Untold Gems. We have another special guest on the pod today. His name is Shayne.Ecom on IG. And he is an Amazon dropshipping expert and coach. So we wanted to have him on the pod because obviously all three of us do FBA, whereas you do FBM. So it's nice to finally meet an FBM seller. So we wanted to talk about the differences with that and as well just get to know you a bit more and have the audience know you as well. So what's up? How's everyone doing? Everyone's good?
Yep.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me on this podcast, by the way.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So we'll start with in the beginning. Like, how did you get started with Amazon FBM dropshipping, and why did you choose that to start?
Yeah. So originally I started this in 2020. Obviously, I was at Concordia. I was at John Molson before this studying. I hopped around from finance, from business admin, marketing. And one of the biggest things is like, you always see the ads, right? You see the ads on Instagram, on Facebook. So it's always been on my head. But when the pandemic hit, it was a little bit of a different scenario, right? School was basically all online with recycled videos from 2008. So I lost all my faith in the schooling system. And then I soon realized, like, okay, well, no one was hiring either, right? So you have two options. You either take CERB or you kind of build something for yourself. And I was trying to put it in my perspective, thinking about, okay, well, what's one thing that is still going on despite, the world being upside down? And that was, online shopping, more specifically Amazon.
Yeah.
And, you do have Shopify as well. But Amazon was a way for me to be able to tap into a marketplace where a lot of people were just organically coming to the platform. And what the pandemic showed a lot of people was like, okay, this is actually really easy, right? I can get my groceries within the span of 2 days. I can get my item the next day. So I dabbled a little bit. I was like, you know what? Let me try to take a look at it. FBA was not something I was aware of. I was more aware of the FBM side. And it was just more so something, okay, one product at a time. But the thing is that with FBM, there's different models, right? You've got OA, you've got RA, and then you also got
There's so many
dropshipping.
different ways.
And the biggest thing for me was, okay, well, I don't want to pay insane amount of fees, but more specifically, I don't want to, have any sort of other intermediaries. I want it to be myself, and then it's going to be the customer as well. So dropshipping is just simply a way for you to be a little bit more hands off, right? For you to be able to minimize the amount of heavy lifting that goes into this and having your supplier do all the heavy lifting for you. So what I did is I tried to list a couple of different products, but throughout the pandemic, considering I didn't have a job, I didn't have school, so I was, spending 12 to 14 hours a day on my business. So I was really able to kind of run through a little bit of trial and error and figure out what worked. Fast forward in our first month, we hit 10K in sales. Fast forward to our first 7 months, we surpassed like $102,000 in sales. So yeah, that was a little bit of my journey of kind of getting started into the whole entire Amazon space and entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah.
But for the people who don't know what's FB and FBA, could you just break down the main difference between the two and what specifically is FBM and how could one get started?
Right. Yeah. So in
Like,
terms of FBM, fulfillment by merchant. That's what FBM stands for. FBA stands for fulfillment by Amazon, which I'm sure a lot of people already know from this podcast. But fulfillment by merchant, very simply explained, it says it in the title, is you're the merchant. So you're in charge of shipping, handling, and labeling all the products. That's all on your hands. So when it comes to FBM, any person can start this, right? It's a business model that allows you to be able to start. There's two different ways. You've got your beginner plan, or what they call an individual plan on Amazon, where there's no monthly fee and it's just you pay as you go, right? So if you sell a product, Amazon charges you a specific fee. Or you got the professional plan, right? And the professional plan is about, I believe, $29 a month, give or take, or $39 a month. And that gives you access to all sort of selling features. There's no limitations. There's nothing like that. And it's really a simple way for a lot of people to be able to test. If they want to try a new online business, you can go ahead and do so. But more specifically, when we talk about a dropshipping business, the way that the business model works is you're only ever spending money when you make money. So I can list the product on Amazon. I can list this water bottle here, and I only ever have to place the order once I've been confirmed that I've got a sale from my supplier, from Amazon, sorry, from the Amazon customer. So that's when I have my supplier send it directly to the customer's doorstep.
Yeah,
Now,
that's
I've
what I like
always-
about the idea of drop shipping is like if you don't have a lot of cash flow or a lot of money to invest into a business, I feel like that would be a really good idea for people who, you know, they're not working or whatever.
Yeah, like I was cash strapped, right? Like no job, coming out of university, like it was not good, right? But for a lot of people is they want to start an online business without, you know, getting or being exposed to so much risk. Right?
Yeah.
You've got a lot out there. You've got crypto, you've got affiliate marketing, you got Forex, you got trading, all these different types of things. And sometimes those might be very volatile. But that's why selling on Amazon is so beginner friendly, because literally just about anybody can start it. As long as you got a laptop and you got a Wi-Fi connection, you're good to go.
Yeah.
So you're basically listing the products, and then once someone orders, you go and buy it from your supplier. That's pure drop shipping, right? So do you buy from outside of the country, or are you buying in the country, or do you buy overseas? Like, are your suppliers located in China, for example, or are they located here?
Yeah, so that's a good question. In terms of suppliers, what I'm a big advocate for is you got to utilize domestic-based suppliers, right? So what that means is if you're selling in the Canadian marketplace, you have to use Canadian-based suppliers. The reason why is because, think about it, any sort of consumer, if I shop on Amazon, it's because I want my product the next day or within the next day or two.
Convenience.
So I got to make sure that my suppliers can match those standards. And considering that I'm doing FBM, the shipping times are on me. So I got to make sure that if I'm selling in Canada, I'm using Canadian suppliers. If you're selling in the US, you US suppliers. If you're selling in the UK, we have a couple people that we work with, you utilize UK-based suppliers. You're never sourcing from AliExpress or Alibaba because shipping times just take way too long.
Yeah, it's like 30 days, 2 months.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so that's what I've always been intrigued about is like with FBM is the seller rating or the feedback, because it's all on you. How do you keep it at a high level, or we're at a place where it's like a good rating?
Right. So like, you know, when you look at FBA, right, like you guys can have the ability to strike through negative reviews that aren't on your shoulders. FBM, you can't do that.
That's
So
it. Yeah.
you got to really be able to have the proper systems in place, right? So this will include having a plethora of different scripts in place in order for you to be able to, you know, manage different types of scenarios that come about, but more specifically, having everything systemized to the point where you're providing people with a high level of customer service. Because that goes into your account health metrics when you're selling on Amazon is your customer service performance. So what we really try to be able to do is we try to nurture the customer as much as we can. So, you know, us as Amazon sellers, when you're doing FBM, you can be able to communicate with the customer directly. So this includes, you know, making them run through a little bit of a funnel. So when they order a product, we send them a thank you for your order script. When their item is shipped, we send them, you know, congrats, your item is on the way script. When we understand that their item was delivered, we send them a script asking them, you know, we hope your item was okay. Please let us know. And then, you know, 5 to 30 days after, we're able to request reviews from the Amazon customer. So really being able to go through that process of ensuring we're nurturing them, I guess you can say kissing their ass to the best of their ability, just to be able to get that positive review, because that's what really goes into your buy box eligibility.
Do you have people that call you?
So you could have people that call you.
They call you?
Yeah, so you could have people that call you. You know, it'll say Amazon.
I'd be so scared. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm too scared. I wouldn't answer. I wouldn't answer.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's a better way for you to be able to communicate with the customer, right? Because
you can build a bond with them.
Exactly. You can only say so much through, you know, instant messaging or the via messages. But when you're able to speak to someone, you can understand their tone. If they're very upset, if they're not very upset, and they can be able to know you on a more personal level, right? Like, hi, my name is Shayne. I'm a customer service rep at XYZ store. How can I help you? Right? It just sounds a little bit better. So it's a little bit of an opportunity, I guess you can say.
And have you found these strategies have made you able to maintain good ratings? Like do you find that you're able to maintain like a decent rating with FBM, even though you can't like remove bad ones?
Yeah. So, you know, it all really funnels down to you got to be able to keep track of your business and what's happening, building the right systems in place. Right? You can't just simply let your customers go or not be in contact with them or not follow up with the tracking information. Because if that's the case, then shit will get lost, right? You'll be able to scale, which is really good, but at the same time, you're going to sacrifice your account health.
Yeah.
And for us, longevity and sustainability is the main reason why we're in this. Whether you're doing FBA or FBM,
For sure.
this is a long-term business, right? This is an income-producing asset. So what we try to be able to do is continuously focus on the number one priority is being account health. You got to focus on your account health, and
1000%.
Whether it's checking your account health metrics 4 times a day or 8 times a day, whatever it need be, you just got to make sure that you're keeping check on it, because it's a lot more than just let's say, for instance, if a buyer is mad or not, it goes into how many sales you get. If you get a negative review, your buy box eligibility decreases.
I was going to ask that.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask, like, how much does it affect you from making sales if you do get bad reviews? Because I mean, like, we've been able to remove all of our bad reviews, so we've been lucky enough, I guess, to keep 100%. Which, like, I'm always telling people, like, oh, we're so lucky as FBA sellers. But does it really impact you a lot when it goes, like, when you get bad reviews?
Oh, right. Yeah, of course it does, right? Because like in the FBM world, we do not compete with FBA or Amazon.
Yeah,
like we avoid you guys like the plague. Like we cannot compete.
So that's what I wanted to ask. Like,
Me too,
you
I wanna
avoid
ask.
the FBA sellers?
Yeah, so that's one of the main things that we try to focus on. Is so many people that they try to go where there's a lot of attention, but the thing is, when you go where there's a lot of attention, let's say for instance,
FBA.
toys and games, it's filled with FBA, right? You're going to come across those product listings. So FBM only want to compete with FBM. So from that point, what we try to be able to do is, if let's say I get a negative review, the first thing is try to be able to see if it meets one of Amazon's criteria for removal. 99% of the time it won't. So from that point, I got to do a little bit of legwork, and I got to be able to understand, okay, well, let me try to message the customer, and I'll try to be able to walk through with them what exactly went wrong and how we can make it better. Whether it's a 10% concessionary refund in order for them to be able to remove the review, that's definitely something that you can do, right? If not, worst case scenario, if we do get that bad review and it can't be removed, our sales will be dragged down, right? Because our buy box eligibility will decrease. It can go from 10% down to 6%. Right?
Wow.
But from that point forward, if that happens, then what we try to do is we try to focus more on the volume of sales. So decreasing our profit margins, really decreasing our prices to be able to ensure that we get more customers in, therefore leading for more opportunity to be able to get more positive reviews from more good customers.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this for how long? Was it a year or 2 years?
It's been a year. It's been 2 years and 3 months.
Yeah, no, I know that for us, we can't or I don't know if we can or can't, but typically FBA sellers aren't we don't send thank you notes or stuff like that with our packaging. So I know that FBM sellers at least have a lot of more reviews that come in than we do. So after how long you've been doing this, you said
2 years.
2 years. So yeah, so how many reviews are you at now? What number have you surpassed? Because I've been doing this for 2 years and I'm just at 120, 125 reviews. Whereas I feel like you would be at a lot more reviews.
So you'd be surprised. I'm at 52 reviews.
Oh, really? Okay.
Right?
Okay, because I thought with the thank you notes, that
Me too,
increases the ratio.
I'm closer to 50. I think I'm at 60 or something.
Right, but when you think about it, why in the world would you leave someone a positive comment unless something went wrong?
Yeah, for sure.
Amazon customers are a different breed, to be fully honest with you.
For sure.
But the thing is that people are not going to be very willing to be able to leave you a positive review unless they have a positive, interaction with you. If you solved an issue, if you sent them another item, or if you kind of shipped out their item on an expedited process, that's when they'll kind of reach out to you. But one of the largest sellers on Amazon is an FBM seller. Right? So it just goes to show that there is a lot of opportunity there. But
I
in
see
terms
those
of
big
reviews,
FBM sellers that have 20,000 reviews. I'm like, how long has this guy been selling on Amazon
There's
for?
this one guy, bro.
In Canada, there's Botley Store, there's Big Huge, there's all these different types of sellers out there. But at the same time, review manipulation is the thing that happens. Right? And that's a risky game. That's definitely something that I would avoid.
Wait, what's that?
So, essentially, review manipulation is where people pay other people from third party
fake reviews?
For fake reviews.
Fake reviews.
That's too. I would be way too scared to do that.
Yeah, but Amazon cracked down on it. Amazon really made sure that
Wow.
they're strict on that, and
Yeah, for
they
sure.
purged like over, I believe it was like 10,000 sellers or something like that.
Holy shit. Well, knowing how strict Amazon is, whatever business model you do, whether it's OA, drop shipping, any business model you do, like your account health, all of their rules, like that's the most important thing. So I'm not surprised at all to hear that.
Yeah, like this is Amazon's world. We're just trying to figure out how can we live in it and how can we make
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
And so they always got new policies in place, restocking limits, increase, decrease every now and then.
Ugh,
So there's
yeah.
different ways in which you got to be able to adjust accordingly. Because if you're not gonna keep up with this, you're not gonna stay ahead of the curve, then you're just gonna be left behind.
For sure. And I know a lot of people that just avoid their accounts, like they just don't look at their account health.
Yeah.
And then they're like confused as to why something happens, but it's like I feel like if you're just really on the ball with that and always checking and making sure that you're following the rules, I don't see why there's any issue, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So for 2 years now, do you know how many sales? I'm sure you do, but like, are you comfortable saying how many sales you've made up to this date?
So I'll tell you in 2020, I don't know actually in full. In 2022 so far, we've done a little bit over $352,000.
That's
Right.
far.
Nice.
So it's decent. But more specifically, that's just an ego number. Our profit margins are about like 26%.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's really good.
It is a decent amount. But that's because, in all honesty, like FBA margins and FBM margins are a little bit different because you guys got different fees.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
We
for
have
sure.
one fee. We have a 15% fee for every single item sold. So
Mhm.
it's a little bit of a different ballgame.
Sure. And so you've had good success with your Amazon business, and then you started coaching people. So because I remember when I started coaching people too, how is that transition? Because I feel like you're like one of the best coaches out there. Like you're really focused on your coaching business, whereas me, for example, like personally, I'm more focused on my actual business, and then I help people that decide to work with me. But I don't like fully like I don't claim myself to be like a coach or anything like that.
Right.
Whereas you've fully taken on that role, and you're having also great success with that. So like, how was it transitioning from like Amazon to now coaching people and helping them start their own business?
Yeah. So like one of the biggest things I realized, like Amazon is it's you, right? Like you're just selling to customers. You don't know these customers. And I always felt like there was something bigger for me to do, like bigger than just me, right? Like bigger than just Shayne and my success. And what that came with is like when I automated my business, when I built out a whole entire team as of like month 8, I was sitting on my behind and I wasn't really doing anything with my time. And then I started to realize like people started to ask me questions. People started to come to me for help and guidance. And one of the most common things I started to realize is people were like, yeah, I paid $8,000 to this guy to be able to teach me something and I didn't get anything from it. And I started to realize like, okay, these are 18-year-old kids doing this. These are people that are getting into, these gurus, these scams, and they're not getting any valuable coaching from it.
Mm.
So although I had a considerable amount of knowledge when it came to Amazon, doesn't mean I could effectively coach it to other people. So I had to invest in my own coaching myself to be able to understand how to run a coaching business and how to teach people and provide them with the most amount of impact. And it's been a year and 2 months that we've been running the coaching program so far. We have 198 people in
Wow,
the program.
that's
And
amazing.
it's really good. It's a different way of coaching. It's really focused on personalized, tailored approaches, being able to understand how can just any specific individual start an Amazon business, whether they got kids, they've got a 9 to 5, whether they're an entrepreneur. It's definitely a lot of fun, and it's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
I
think
have a
it's
quick question on
important.
the coaching.
Oh,
I just want to know, how does one go from having the idea to coach? I think a lot of people have the knowledge to coach, but how do you implement the infrastructure to be able to say, this is my plan, this is my website, this is how I'm going to market? Can you walk us through a bit of the process of having an idea a year ago to where it's at right now?
So what that stems from is understanding where I started from. When I started, I had no idea. Like one of the biggest things is, okay, how do I start my Amazon account? So how do I register an Amazon account? So one of the first chapters that we run through is registering your seller account. And the second part, okay, once I set up my Amazon account, how do I navigate Seller Central? Okay, the second chapter is navigating Seller Central. The third part to that is, okay, well, how do I deal with customers? How do I message customers? third part, obviously customer service and so on. You get where I'm getting at here. But I try to be able to put myself in the position that I was once at, a little bit over 2 years ago, and really make sure that, okay, if I was coming into this, would this help me? And first the program started out as just simply like a course and just a video training. But now we've evolved it to 35 hours of video training that sets their foundation. And then we run them through a 30-day Amazon Accelerator. So they have me as their personal coach. Then they get their own assistant coach. And we're really just holding their hand through the whole entire process. Because this is a new business for them. Right? I've got all the tools and resources that has helped me be successful. So I'm just running them through everything I wish that I knew in the beginning to do, to save them the time in order to be able to get them where they want to be, but also to relieve any sort of the stress or anxiety that comes with starting a new business. Because for so many people, the reason why they don't take action is because they don't have a proper blueprint. And for me, the reason why people come to me is because I feel like I'm authentic. I'm just me. There's nothing to me, right? But at the same time, I'm just putting my life out there. And for me to build out a proper coaching program, it really stemmed from being able to put myself in their position, starting out, and more specifically, over-delivering on all different types of value. Like there's many layers to the coaching program that people have daily support, they've got weekly support, they've got lifetime access to mentorship and one-on-one calls, they've got a private strategy inbox, they've got inventory audits, live product research masterclasses, live product research audits, like a wide variety of different things. And the point of that is really to be able to provide them with the most amount of transformation within the shortest period of time.
I have a question. I've always wondered this about you. How are you able to do lifetime support? Because me, I'm I don't know how you're able to manage that many students. Do you have assistants that help you? Tell us a bit about that.
Right. So 198 people is a lot of people.
Yeah, and you said lifetime coaching sessions, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that?
When we think about, offering lifetime coaching, the reason why is because majority of the people out there in terms of dropshipping coaches, they'll offer a 3-month program for 10 grand or something like that. And logically speaking, that doesn't make sense, because if I'm helping you build a business that I want you to run for a lifetime, I can't just be there for the first 3 months, because month 4, 5, 6 can different other set of problems. It's what we call the economies of scale. So coming into this, I had to be able to understand I have to be there every single step of the way. And it does, at times it does happen to be a lot, but, we've taken one of our best students in the program. He's now the assistant coach, right? So he's essentially a second me, right? He's our second employee. He's been the one that's been, doing a lot of the video calls, being able to do a lot of the communication, answering in the group channel, and really being able to provide people with value. But nonetheless, I stay dedicated, right? Like I'm the head coach of everything. People rely on me primarily. Yep. So it's very important for me to structure my days accordingly and understand that if I have an hour available, it's going to my students. It's not going towards Netflix or anything like that. It's going towards them. Exactly. So it does come, it does get to be a little bit overwhelming at times. But what helps is having systems in place. You got to have the right infrastructure. And if you have a good coaching program, then the amount of questions that people are going to ask, not necessarily going to be the most.
For sure, because if they're learning it from the beginning, they shouldn't have that many questions. That's true. That's a good point.
I have 2 questions. How did you learn about Amazon FBM or dropshipping, what you do? And also, I think it's very important for you to mention, because I think you've been vocal about this, and your girlfriend also told us how much money you've spent in learning how to coach people. So just talk a bit about that.
So FBM, I stumbled across it really just like I said in the beginning, right? Like you see these ads and you've seen all different types of people come across it. And dropshipping was a hot topic in the pandemic, right? But it was Shopify dropshipping, not Amazon dropshipping. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I realized with Shopify is, damn, I got to build a website. I got to build a marketing funnel. I got to find a product. I got to code. I got to build out my widgets. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do all that. And more specifically, I got to spend money on ads, which I didn't have any money to spend money on ads. So I was thinking, okay, well, Shopify is one way. What's another website? And I typed in Amazon dropshipping, and then I didn't even know it was FBM, but it was a form of FBM. You look at the YouTube videos,
It's all
Yes,
private label.
yeah, this is private label, and that's a different world, that's a different thing. So I was like, okay, like I can't necessarily do that because I'm not that invested right now, because I didn't see any sort of validation from that business. But I just kind of started as a regular dropshipper and kind of tested the waters from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you learned on YouTube?
Yeah, so learning through YouTube.
Okay.
Really, I mean, YouTube is great. It's a good starting point, but at some point, for me, what it comes with is a lot of experience, right? You can only learn so much about selling on Amazon, but until you're within Seller Central, until you're searching on Amazon.ca, it's a different ballgame, right? Until you're looking at the charts, you're analyzing the BSRs and so on. That's where majority of your learning comes from.
Yeah,
And
you
that's
learn
why.
from doing, and trial and error.
Exactly. And product research is your income producing activity. Like this is
For
how you
sure.
make money.
Yeah.
If you want to be able to generate income, it's by do product research, find the stuff that people are looking to buy, and then you're going to be able to make money with this.
Yeah.
Right?
Nice.
So in terms of how much money I spent in coaching, so I've spent a little bit over $50,000 in coaching
Holy shit.
this year alone. So I guess you can say we're about like at 70 grand in total over the past 2 years. But that's the thing, right? Is some people might realize like, oh wow, like that's a lot of money. At the same time, yes. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, the return on investment and the coaches that I invested into, it's been infinite, right?
Yeah, if you're able to learn a lot of skills from them, they know how to make money. So
these are coaches that do 7 figures a month, right, with their coaching businesses. So you definitely learn a lot of information and really trying to be able to build out more value and provide people with transformation is the main focus. Your job as a coach is people come to you to make money. Well, at least as an Amazon dropshipping coach. So my job is to help people go from 0 to 100 in the shortest period of time. Mm-hmm. So the pressure is on, but at the same time, like that pressure really allows me to ensure that people are going to be successful.
Do you have any known coaches? Like, who are your coaches?
Known coaches, some people might know him as Richard Yu. It's actually the first time I'm actually publicly announcing this, so a little bit weird. But yeah, Richard Yu.
We got some exclusive tea.
More specific, exclusive content here. Richard Yutzi is his name, and he's been able to be phenomenal for me. He taught me everything.
Okay, cool. And like, what are the main things you learn? Like, when people hear like $70,000 spent in learning, like they think like, oh wow. So like, what are you learning? Are you getting that value? I suppose yes, but like, what are you learning?
So really what you're learning is you're learning the fundamentals of building out a coaching business. So there's a lot more that goes into it besides just coaching people, right? Because for a coaching business or a personal brand in general, you got to be able to get attention, right? You got to be able to get eyeballs onto your page. Now, how do you do this? Well, that stems from your traffic, right? And your traffic is going to be your main source of where you're going to be able to get more eyeballs. So IG, right? Content, being able to push out as much content as possible, or more specifically, how to write engaging content, how to write content that people are actually willing to read. And, there's a lot of different other platforms out there, but one specific thing that they tell us about is unless you've mastered one platform, don't move on to another, right? So don't go on to, TikTok, don't go on to YouTube, because what ends up happening is if you don't build out a proper system for one platform, then you're going to sacrifice the quality that's going to go into it, right? So like, for right now, the coaching program, like we're hiring a social media manager, right? So someone that's going to handle all the social media, handle all the content. So that way that's going to be fully automated. So then we can step into YouTube maybe, or TikTok, or different things like that, right? So, there's a lot that goes into it, from the traffic, from the content, from the transformation, and also in terms of really being able to make sure that you know how to create these videos, right? You know how to build out a membership portal, you know how to build out a website and different things like that. So I know it's very brief, but it's a whole entire bunch of information that's very hard to retain. But putting it to work and putting it into implementation right away was one of the best things I was ever able to do.
Yeah, so would you say like the success of your coaching business, I know it's you, but like, would you say a lot of that came from what you learned in the coaching program?
Yeah, I would almost allocate like 95% of it.
Damn, that's crazy.
I would say. And it has generated like a I guess we can say like a 5x return on the money that I spent on it. So it's been able to prove that if you want to learn something, if you want to be able to do something, just learn from someone who's already been in that position. Learn from someone who's already been there, who's doing it, because that way it's going to accelerate the amount of results that you get within a shorter period of time.
Yeah.
I just Googled Richard Yu and I actually, I've seen him before. Like,
Yeah,
it's
everybody has.
I think I've seen him before too. Like, I recognize the name.
Yeah.
I have a question. Sorry. I was gonna say, like, do you know Flip for Miles and like Fields of Profit?
Yep.
They're like FBA sellers. Like, I often, or maybe not as much now, but I used to see them always saying like, "Oh, don't do drop shipping because your account's gonna get shut down." I want to know what's your response to that.
Right. So good old, there's a divide. There is a divide between FBA sellers and drop shippers because everybody likes to position one way that's better over the other, which is fair. That's fine. And that's a reasonable argument, right? Because drop shipping, when you look at the broad scope of things, everybody loves to say, we're not going to mention any names, but everybody loves to say that drop shipping is against TOS, terms of services. Now, if, let's say, for instance, I want to be able to look a little bit deeper. If you look a little bit deeper into the TOS states that you have to be the seller of record, and you have to either provide the packaging in unbranded packaging or your own. So what this means is those two things stem from my suppliers, right? And indicating I'm the seller of record and indicating that I have unbranded packaging. So my suppliers have to be able to support those two things. They have to abide by those two parts. So what we do here is in the program, bulk majority of the learning is helping people understand what suppliers to use. So we give them a whole list of what we call dropship friendly suppliers that are abiding by TOS. So then from that point forward, once they have these suppliers in place, it completely goes out of the window. You don't have to worry about the TOS. But a lot of people just look at the broad scope. They look at it from an outsider point of view.
Yeah. A lot of people
that's
don't
okay.
know.
Yeah, but when people have significant followings and they state XYZ is not good for XYZ reasons, it grinds my gears because people haven't personally been through it, right? So why are you going to talk shit about something you don't know anything about?
Tell them.
Which is something that, it happens with social media, so you just got to put it on the back.
No, but everyone's saying the same. It's the same thing with private label. Like, I follow some girls that do private label and they're always like, "Oh, like online arbitrage isn't good." And I'm like, I thought we were friends, but it's just that's what they're promoting, so I get it. But I remember actually checking the rules of dropshipping and I read the same thing. Like, it's allowed, it's just that you have to follow the rules of what's allowed, So basically what you do and what you advise your students to do is to find specific suppliers that will follow those rules, if I understood.
Yeah, so they don't even have to find them. We give them to them, right? Because I don't want you to use something that doesn't abide by TOS.
Did you ever have a supplier that like didn't follow the right rule, like didn't follow the rules, or are they generally good with that?
So generally they'll all abide by the rules, right? We kind of run through a little bit of a processes in order to vet what supplier is good and what supplier is not good. And through that process, that's what allows us to be able to identify, okay, this supplier is dropship friendly or this supplier is not dropship friendly. And then more specifically, we dive a little bit deeper in the way in which that we source products from those suppliers.
Okay.
Right? Because sometimes certain products that I source won't necessarily be abiding by Amazon TOS. So I got to be very careful in terms of that.
But have you had any of your students get their account like deactivated or anything like that? Or have you encountered that yourself? And if so, how did you fix it?
Yeah, so in terms of deactivations, I remember the day I almost got deactivated like it was yesterday. I was sitting in my girlfriend's living room and then I fell asleep. It was like 1 a.m. and I didn't confirm my shipments. So my late shipment rate, my LSR, is account health metric that we need to look at, was like 14%, and it has to be below 4%. So I've immediately started to freak out. I was like, yeah, I'm going to lose it all. This is it. This is the end. I'm going to move on to the next thing.
Biggest fear.
Right. And then, I got the email from Amazon saying, hey, like your account is at risk of deactivation. Please submit a POA, a plan of action. And I submitted everything accordingly. I was able to speak to account health specialist rep. And they essentially ran me through, okay, like this is what you have to include. This is what not to include. made my case, and thankfully enough, they were able to let me go. But I remember that like it was yesterday, and that's the reason why I talk about students. They have to keep track of their account health, because if you don't keep track of your account health, it's much like your own personal body. If you don't keep track of your body and keep it in check and feed it good nutrients, it's just going to go downhill.
And have you dealt with someone who would actually cross the line and was suspended, and then you had to get their account back? Or
right?
So I want to know, like, if your account gets suspended, how do you get it back? Because for me, like me too, I'm stressed. Like if ever my account gets shut down, did you ever have like that happen where it was fixable, or was it not fixable?
Yeah. So one of the things that people have to understand, whether you're doing FBA or FBM, suspensions are not forever. That's the most important part. People think that once you're deactivated, it's like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. Yeah. It's not. Now, I've been personally trained by Amazon appeal lawyers. I don't know if you know who Ed Rosenberg is. Essentially, he's very well known in the Amazon space. And he's essentially an Amazon appeal lawyer. So what that means is he's specifically trained on how to write appeals as it pertains to Amazon policies and deactivations. Right. So I had the opportunity to be able to learn from him and understand what goes into a POA. And if someone gets deactivated, what are the proper course of actions to take? Now, more specifically, if you do get deactivated, whatever the reason is, whether it's your account health metrics, whether it is, what's the reason that you could get deactivated for FBA?
One time I was selling
health, I guess. Yeah.
I was selling products that had like vitamin C, and they're like, you broke the rules because you're selling restricted products in Canada.
Like several IP complaints and stuff.
Stupid shit like that. Yeah,
okay, yeah. So policy compliance, right? Policy but compliance.
Yeah, exactly. Compliance. It was compliance.
Right. So from that point, what you have to dive in, the second that you get deactivated, most likely Amazon will call you. Okay, Amazon, you have to answer that phone. You should be answering that phone, because that's your opportunity to make your case to an Amazon seller support rep, where they're actually going to be able to put internal notes into your file. So they can understand your tone and saying like, look, this was a sincere mistake. And then that goes, in your favor. But from that point, there's three parts to your appeal or to your plan of action: the root cause, what you did to fix it, and what you're going to be doing in the future to ensure that doesn't happen again. Now, what's extremely important is the first part, the root cause. So many people make this common mistake of, it's not my fault. It's an error. There's an error wrong with the system. I was flagged for no good reason. You cannot do that. The reason why is because it's Amazon. They most likely did not make a mistake. Okay, they've got systems and processes in place to be able to establish what's a good seller and what's not. So that being said, what you have to dive deep into is the root cause. Really going through the past 30 days of your sales, whether it was 14,000 sales or 5 orders, you got to be able to understand, where did something go wrong for every single order, and then identify specific orders that might have had a slip up. Maybe there was one item that a customer claimed it was not in its original packaging. Maybe a customer claimed it was inauthentic or wasn't valid. And then from that point, it's something I have to include in my root cause and explain to Amazon, saying, look, I understand what happened. This is what happened. And this is what caused this to be able to violate this policy. And then you have to be able to be very extensive in regards to that, but also being very concise. So you got to use, very particular wording, very particular.
Yeah, you have to use their terminology. I had to do the same thing, and I wrote an essay. I felt like I was in high school writing an essay.
Right, and that's like the biggest nightmare, is having to write that whole entire thing. And from that point, in terms of what you're doing to prevent this, or what you're doing to fix it, you simply explain to them in brief. But you've refunded the customers. You've implemented the proper systems, you've hired a team, you've included employee handbooks, and then what you're doing to prevent this in the future is kind of reiterating that middle part, but just expanding on it a little bit more.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to touch upon, because we talk about personal credit, but I want to touch upon business credit. Can you just talk about your process of, in 2 years, how you're able to establish business credit, and how new entrepreneurs could go about the process of establishing business credits?
Yeah, so that's a scary place for a lot of people. Like, credit is something that a lot of people are not familiar with, and they don't understand the difference between good debt and bad debt. And first things first, everyone has to understand that, debt exists, but there's a difference between the good debt and the bad debt, right? You buying a car necessarily is not good debt, right? You buying, let's say, or putting your money towards products that can produce a return on investment, good debt. So when it came to it, I didn't have any business credit in the beginning. like for the first 8 months, I didn't have anything. So I was really running through everything in my personal credit. So thankfully, I was knowledgeable enough in regards to following the right types of people and being able to understand, okay, I can apply for different credit cards, because despite my 5,000 credit limit student card, and I was running everything personally. But then once you tap into like the business aspect, it's a different ball game, right? Like your personal credit score and your business credit score are two different things. And as a new online business, sometimes there'll be some skepticism from the banks, right? Banks are not going to be willing to, what's an e-commerce business? What do you mean you're buying products online? I remember I went to TD and TD ran me through a whole interview in regards to the nature of the business model. And they didn't understand it. Yeah, they think you're doing a scam, so you're buying products from China and all this. They didn't understand it. And when they don't understand it, they can't fund it. So they're more used to the traditional ways of, it could be real estate, let's say, for instance, or it could just be for employees and stuff like that. So one of the first cards that I got was a Amex Aeroplan kind of reserve card. Right? So that gave me it gave me 13 in the beginning, and then like 3 months after I've got it to like 20K, and then now we're at like $44,000 in available credit to work with. And then now fast forward, we have like 6 different credit cards, right? So really being able to utilize credit to your advantage. But business credit is something that I feel like a lot of people need to learn a little bit more about before they step into. It's something that I'm still trying to do. I'm still trying to understand the ropes of it and how to maximize it to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
Perfect. So can you walk to me how you got that platinum, that Amex platinum, the infinite?
Right.
Because for me, I feel like that is the holy grail of business credit. I feel like that opens up a lot of doors, especially for you to be able to use it for personal reasons, etc. So can you talk about the process of achieving that card, and how can you recommend somebody go through that process as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Amex Platinum card is, like you said very perfectly, it's the holy grail. If there's one credit card that you want to own, it is that credit card. Not only in terms of the perks it gets in terms of the credit, but your travel rewards that you're able to get from an Amex Platinum card. You can be able to book a first-class trip from here to Qatar solely on Amex Rewards points, right? And that is doable. But the thing is that there's a few catches here, right? So you do have to pay $599 a year to be able to utilize that card, right? So some people are not willing to do it. And right now I pay I think I pay like over $2,000 for credit cards on an annual basis, right? But it's because they maximize travel rewards for me. But with that being said, applying for an Amex Platinum, really, in full honesty, was not that hard for me. It wasn't necessarily a big process. It did take some time. It did take some submissions of certain documentation in terms of business registration, especially here in Quebec. So really trying to be able to ensure that you're going about it at the right time as well, right? Like you have to have some sort of proof that you have a business. You have to show them that this is what I'm utilizing this card for. Because if you don't, likelihood of you being accepted, not likely. But even if they do, the amount of credit that they're going to accept you for, basically minimal, right? It's not going to be anything so significant. So that's why applying for an Amex Platinum card, you got to, it's not your beginner card. It's not the first card that someone should apply for. But when you're later on, when you understand the credit game and how to utilize different things, it's definitely something down the line, maybe a year after people start to dabble with credit cards, everybody should have, right? It's the staple, especially in terms of travel rewards, right? Like it gets you access to Priority Pass, which gives you access to like over 13,000 lounges across the globe. Right? That alone pays for the fee in itself.
How many lounges does it come with? Because mine has 6, which is not enough.
So I'm not sure what credit card you have.
It's the CIBC Ventura Privilege, because I have... Oh, I need to not expose myself right now, actually. But anyways,
yeah. So
I have, but it's not worth it. Like this card is not worth it because it's like it's a $500 credit card.
Sasha,
I'm gonna cut that. Just stop.
No, it's okay. I'm canceling the credit card after we use the passes.
you're gonna go to jail. Don't mind.
Anyways,
Don't mind.
anyways, my
Get this
point
out.
is, it only comes with 6 priority passes, but I find that's quite low for a $500 card. Don't
Yeah,
you
no,
find?
that's bullshit. You know, not all
I'm
credit card
dead.
issuers are the same, and the reason why is Amex. You think of it as the higher status, right? Like you do have Amex Platinum cards, which are the best card available to the public, but then you also got Amex Black cards, and
Oh, damn,
that's
what are
like
those?
invitational only. That's like different level type
Okay.
entrepreneurship. But at the same time, when it comes to getting access to priority passes or even lounges when you are traveling, I would recommend two different things. So you have priority pass, right? So priority pass is essentially allowing you to have access to a network of lounges across the globe. Now it depends what credit card you have. With the Amex Platinum, you have worldwide priority pass included. Okay, so I can be anywhere in the world as long as there's a priority pass at that airport, I'll be able to access it. Then, in terms of people in Canada, one really easy card that you can be able to apply for is an Amex Aeroplan card, right? So it could be the reserve card or it could be just the basic one. The Amex Reserve is the one that I have. You pay like $499 a year. That gets you access to all Maple Leaf lounges, right? So all lounges by Air Canada, wherever you're traveling within North America. It also gets you free checked bags. It also gets you, let's say 25% off seat selection. It gets you access to also upgrades to first class, which is a very big perk. So, there's a whole entire space out there in terms of the credit game and how to maximize the travel rewards.
Okay, wait, but how many priority passes do you have per year? Because she said 6 for hers. Do you know how many it is for that? Because I'm also considering getting that Amex, the Platinum card.
Yeah, I'm
Unlimited.
canceling my card because
Oh, it's unlimited. Okay.
You don't have a limit. Yeah, you don't have a
That's the
limit.
whole point. That the card is worldwide. It's a worldwide card, and that's
Mine's
literally
worldwide too, but it's only
no. But
6 times a year.
like Shayne said, that's a Canadian issued card. When you deal with Amex, it's really
Oh,
world renowned.
okay.
That's
Yeah,
why
yeah, yeah.
you're getting to pay $700 per year for the card.
I'm canceling
So
my
Right.
card.
that's
Now,
why
I
getting
want
that
people.
card is like you made it.
I want people to know too, like the fee if you're running a business is it's a tax write off, so you can deduct it. So
50%.
don't let that be the reason why you don't get a credit card that can be beneficial to
Yeah,
you.
because it's so worth it regardless.
But in terms of the points, like how much money do you have to? Because me, I'm at a point where I'm spending a lot of money on my credit card to buy inventory. I'm looking to get that card. It doesn't matter for the fee, but I just want to know if it's actually going to be beneficial for me. Because right now I'm with Amex. I have the Simply Preferred cashback, and I'm getting 2% on all my purchases, and that like
No, that's
accumulates
really
quite
good.
quickly.
Out of
Yeah,
all credit cards in Canada, that's one of the
in
only
terms of
cards that
cashback,
actually
it's
has
like the
2%.
best. Yeah, exactly.
It's the best one in Canada.
Yeah, so
But
like especially when you run this type of business, right? 2% cash back, that's 2% on your margins.
that's what I'm
right?
saying. Yeah.
So you're like, oh damn, like I can actually be able to utilize that.
Yeah.
Um,
So in terms
go
of
ahead.
like that card, the platinum card, how much better is it compared to that in terms of the reward points? Like, let's say a flight to Qatar, because we are going to Qatar, funnily enough. And how much would you have to spend to get that flight?
Yeah, so the sign up bonus for Amex currently, they did run a promotion. I believe it's about 120,000 membership awards points. If you do hit the sign up bonus, when I used it, it was I believe it was either $10,000 or $15,000 in spend on that card within the first 3 months of using it.
Okay.
Right? So what ended up happening for me is obviously if you have an Amazon business, it's a no-brainer at that point. Like you're spending money on inventory anyways, so why not be rewarded for the money that you're spending on your inventory to be able to travel for free?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to how much is it in terms of being able to redeem your travel rewards points for let's say a first class flight to Qatar, it's very layered. So, you got different airplanes, you've got different airlines. But one key thing for a lot of Canadians out there is Amex is primarily a US issuer. So Amex membership rewards points can be converted into Aeroplan points at a 1-to-1 ratio. And so that means if I have $120,000 membership rewards points from Amex, I can convert that into 120,000 Aeroplan points. And that can allow me to be able to book a first class flight, let's say from here. I'm not sure if there's any direct flights from Yule to Qatar, but let's say, for instance, from here to London, let's say, for instance, or something like that, right?
Okay.
So in terms of, are you going to be able to find a flight? Most probably not, right? Because award availability ever since the pandemic ended, everything's been booked up. People are booking trips 2 years out in advance just to be able to have access to, something like Q suites.
Yeah.
So those different types of scenarios are very tricky. And that's why you got to follow like the right types of people and have the right type of guidance when it comes to, redeeming rewards points and travel awards.
Yeah. Because I don't know
Well,
like what to do now. Because 2% is fire, but also like, am I missing out on something that could get me like
You are
free
missing
flights,
out.
basically?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you think about your 2%, right? Your 2% might get you X amount of dollars back in cash back on a monthly
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much that is, but when you think about it and you classify in terms of a first class flights can cost you $12,000
Yeah.
for one
True.
way,
True.
right? So in that in itself, yes, you are missing out, but there's no reason, in all honesty, why you can't have both.
True.
Shayne, correct
Yeah.
me if I'm wrong, but I think the platinum card helps you also if you have a spouse or a partner or somebody else traveling with you. Is that correct?
Yeah. So even with
Like
priority, yeah. So even with priority passes, it's you and a guest, obviously, of course. And then in terms of the other Amex cards, so the Amex Aeroplan Reserve card, it's me and my girlfriend, right? So she saves on everything I save. So she gets 25% off. She gets a free check bag for the amount of shit that she has. It's key, right? I don't want to pay $70 for a bag. So from that point, if you're a traveling couple, right, it might just be needed for one person to get that card, right? Or if you want to be able to maximize things to the fullest, you apply for one card at one moment, get the sign up bonus. Then in the next 3 months thereafter, let's say Sasha can be able to apply for that card, hit the sign up bonus, boom, $240,000, 240,000 points in membership kind of points for Amex. You can go to the Maldives if you really wanted to.
On a first class flight?
Yep.
Is it there and back?
That will probably be one way.
In one way. Okay. I'm just wondering. Like, I just want to understand what it converts to in real life.
Yeah, well, now we're starting the travel hacking segment.
Yeah, we've been on the travel hacking.
We've been on that stuff.
Okay, so what are some travel hacking tips? Because I know that you always like talk about this, and like I know this is like it was mainly an Amazon episode, but we wanted to talk to you about this too. What are some like travel hacking tips that you can give for like beginners, or the first thing you can recommend?
Right. So are we speaking to people in Canada? Like, what's your demographic here? Mostly in Canada?
For us,
Yeah, mostly Canadian.
Okay.
I'm joking for everyone, but mainly for us.
Right. So if you want to clean 10,000 Aeroplan points, apply for the CIBC Aeroplan card. It's a Visa card, 0 annual fee, free 10,000 Aeroplan points once you buy a pack of gum. Okay, so that's the first step every person should take. And then in terms of really any sort of hacking tips, just make sure that when you have a big expense coming up, so whether it's putting a down payment on a house, whether it's applying or paying for a mentorship, whether it's buying a car, whether it's any sort of other thing that will be of, let's say, great significance, $3,000 and more, apply for the credit card beforehand. Because you're going to be spending the money anyways. So why not utilize the big amount of money that you're going to be spending at one time to hit the sign-up bonuses? Because the way that you're going to be able to travel for free is sign-up bonuses, right? That's really where you're going to be able to accumulate a lot of your points, is by hitting these cards that have minimal sign-up bonuses, but have hefty points in return. Right? And that will come from, Visa and MasterCard, they slack 100%. I believe that they slack hard when it comes to travel rewards. Amex will be your go-to. Amex will be definitely something that you want to be able to look at. So right. So if people don't want to be able to apply for, an Amex Platinum right away, there's different cards out there, right? And what's extremely important is if you're Canadian, that you predominantly fly with Air Canada, apply for a co-branded credit card. Because a co-branded credit card will give you different perks when it comes to that specific airline, right? Even, my girlfriend has a TD Visa Aeroplan card or preferred card, costs her like $129 a year, and it still gives her preferred seat selection, right? A free checked bags and different percentages off of flights. So when it comes to that specific scenario where she's traveling on her own, it helps her out, right? So just making sure that you're really ensuring that when you do have an expense, apply for the right credit card. And if you're not willing to pay for a hefty fee, just make sure you have something that's co-branded with the main airline that you fly with.
Just before, like, I wanted to ask, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but like, let's say you have a current Amex card and you apply for another one. Do they give you that same limit that you have on the other one, or how does it start? Do you have to start over? Do you know?
I don't believe that will be the case. They're not going to give the same exact one, considering that you have previous history with them. Of course, positive history. I would assume that they would be willing to give you a little bit extra more, but it also depends on the card as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Shayne, can you talk about putting your personal guarantee potentially on a couple of business cards when starting out? Because I think that scares a lot of people to have to put their personal credit on business, especially afterward, if you don't know to remove it afterwards or graduate to a point where you don't have to do that. Can you talk about that process and how that works for different companies?
Yeah, so it's very pressuring, I guess you could say. It's a lot of pressure for a lot of people, and they're like, okay, personal guarantee, oh my god, right? But the way, like, very briefly, it's a little bit in depth, but the way that you have to view it is you can't give yourself any other option, right? Like, you put your personal guarantee, not a problem, but you got to make sure that it's do or die at that point, right? You got to make sure that you're going to do whatever it takes to be able to hit whatever requirements that they're asking for, right? So even if you don't have specific things, let's say, for instance, that you might think of, you can simply try to be able to work up different things that you can put in that guarantee that can amount to whatever it is that they're asking for. And so every single person is going to be different, and it's a little bit of a layered question, just in the fact that, for me, it wasn't necessarily so much because I did have my business. But some people don't have their businesses yet, or they don't have it to a significant point in time where they can be able to include in that guarantee. Right? So it's just willing to be able to ensure that when you're going down that route, just have the frame of mind like, it's this or it's nothing, really. And I know the doors that this can open for me, so I'm going to put that as my sole priority. There's no, okay, well, I'm going to fail at this, I'm not going to be able to do X, Y, Z.
I think a lot of people just, when you hear personal guarantee, I think it's like a mental block, especially like for me, I'm at a point where the more you're trying to scale, the higher the risk is going to be. So you basically have to put your name on the dotted line. So I think that's a scary point, but I think it's a point of resistance for a lot of people to break through.
Yeah, and one of the big things that many people don't actually think about, you can also look for private funding, right? There are VCs out there, there are angel investors that can be willing to be able to invest in you, right? You just got to be able to present them with specific opportunities. Like, I was approached by a VC. He wanted me to build him out a massive worldwide Amazon business. And this is someone that was very well off. He owned one of the fewest cars in Canada, one of the most rarest cars. He didn't tell me which one it is. But I realized, like, okay, I'm like, how much money do we have for inventory on a monthly basis? Unlimited. What does that even mean? Right? Coming from the point of working with, 20,000 at that point per month in credit, when you're like, okay, I have unlimited amount of money for inventory. Okay, well, this seems rather interesting. And you can see how far you can take that. And generally speaking, the way that private funding goes is, they'll just take a profit share because they're not doing anything. These are most likely retired people that, had multiple 8-figure exits for their businesses. So they just want to sit on their asses and produce passive income. So it'd be worth it for you in the end. Unfortunately, that deal didn't end up going through with me, but nonetheless, it was a good learning experience in regards to, oh, wow, like, that's actually out there. Like, these types of things do happen. So try to be able to, expand your horizons, I guess you can say, a little bit. If you know that you believe in the business that you have, someone else can benefit from it, you just need access to a little bit more capital in order to be able to get to that next level. There's no reason why you can't reach out to, either some sort of angel investor or VCs.
Yeah. So what's next for you, like, in terms of the coaching business, the Amazon business? What are you focusing on right now?
So really coaching in 100% honesty, building out leading digital ecom as a brand, and really making a mark in terms of the coaching space when it comes to e-commerce coaches. Like I said, right, we have a significant success rate. We have 100% success rate simply because the people that we let in, we interview them. Right? We make sure that these are people that are hungry, people that want results, people that are coachable, that will listen. So really trying to be able to get to that point of, you look at other people like Bashar, for instance. I'm not sure if anybody knows of Bashar here, but Bashar does $2 to $3 million a month, okay, with his coaching program. Right? And the reason why I know that is because we have the same coaches. So what ends up happening is you got to think a lot bigger, right? $2 to $3 million a month, that's a lot of people that are being able to change their lives.
Yeah.
So, he built out his university, his name out there, and so many people just know it off the top of their head. Well, that's what we try to get to, with us and in leading digital ecom is reinventing the way in which people perceive e-commerce, and more specifically dropshipping, because people look at e-com and they're like, scam immediately.
Yeah, automatic.
Yeah.
Right. And especially a lot of people from, that are a little bit of older age, that they don't understand it. So if they don't understand something, they'll immediately resort to scams. So just really being able to provide people with real coaching, personalized coaching, and, hiring more employees for the coaching program to be able to make sure that we can not sacrifice the quality of coaching that's coming into this business as more people join it.
How many employees are you at right now?
Currently, we're at 2 employees. So
okay.
Nice.
we've got, and they're actually both from my program. So these are the 2 people that I've actually previously coached, and now they're working for me.
Damn, that's so cute that they're people that you taught how to do it.
Right, and that's something that we learn in business coaching is if you want to be able to have someone understand what you're selling, go to the people that have been through your program. Because those are the people that understand, that's been through on a first-hand basis.
Yeah, and you've already taught them how to do what you're doing.
Right. So it's kind of like second nature for them to be able to, I guess you can say, explain the value that's included in the coaching program to other people.
And you're also providing them with potential opportunities too, which is cool.
Yeah, one of the employees that I work with, he's 19 years old. He just made like $6,000 last month.
Oh my God. At 19, that's crazy.
By just simply doing appointment setting. And it's that simple. Right? But it just goes to show, like, people out there, if you give them opportunities, they're going to be able to actually give back to you. And you never know where things might actually lead you.
Yeah, for sure.
And have you ever worked with VAs?
Well, yeah, my whole entire Amazon store is run by VAs. So
we
have a good team. I've been lucky with my VAs, or my first VA. He's my manager, I guess you can say. And I've been with him since the get-go. He's been able to manage everything for me, been able to take care of everything. He's been able to train the other VAs that we have on board. And VAs are just a phenomenal way for you to be able to scale any type of business.
And how many do you have right now?
Currently 3.
Wow.
Okay. I'm on 1 still. I'm looking to hire a second one, but I don't know. I don't like managing people that much.
If you utilize things like Trello, again, systems, right? Every single business has to have systems in place, and running people through like a Trello board and developing like an SOP just to make their job a lot easier. And then you record like a 20-minute Loom video in regards to what they need to do on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. It's pretty simple, right? And if you're an effective coach, if you know what you're talking about, you're going to be able to communicate it to other people.
Yeah. And finally, before we end, I wanted to talk about one last thing, which is basically your fitness, your health. I know you go to the gym pretty much every day. So how has that helped you in your business? Just talk a bit about living a healthy lifestyle and going to the gym and how that helps you.
All right. Yeah. Well, firstly, obviously, having a girlfriend that's in the fitness space obviously influences me significantly to get up off my ass, because e-commerce sellers were on our laptops, right? So sometimes it might be hard to really get up and stop sourcing products. So really, I had to reframe my thinking when it came to the gym. I was previously very much into fitness, into bodybuilding, and then I worked my way out of it as I got into e-commerce. But I used it more so as a place that allowed me to be able to disconnect from everything. Like on my phone's on Do Not Disturb. Nobody talks to me. I don't even want to talk to people at the gym, simply because it's my time. It's the 1 hour that I can allow myself to not work. Yeah. And that allows me to take a break, to reset, to, whatever, work out my demons, as some people say. But it allows me to come back with a clear head after that and be a little bit more productive, right? In terms of, food, I mean, I order meal prep basically for every single day. So that's a time saver for every single entrepreneur, which I believe that they should all utilize. And it just saves you time, right?
Yeah,
And,
for
in
sure.
terms of the food that you eat, like if ever somebody has gone to breakfast and you feel very heavy after that, and you want to take a nap after breakfast, it's because you feel lethargic, right? And that
Yeah.
comes with foods that are not necessarily the best for you. So
Yeah.
really avoiding heavy meals throughout the day, right? Really avoiding things that are highly processed throughout the whole entire day, just to make sure that I'm able to maintain the highest level of productivity and to ensure that I don't feel like taking a nap at 2 p.m.
And do you have any tips to give people that want to stay consistent at the gym?
Build out a schedule in regards to what you want to do, right? So one of the best things, well, honestly, I speak, it's a little bit biased for me because I have my girlfriend, but having someone to show you what to do, I guess you can say, or tell you do this for this amount of sets and these amount of reps helps because it alleviates some of the pressure. When people step into the gym, they're like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one thing that also helps, but really just making sure that you're time blocking a specific time throughout each and every single day to put towards the gym, right? Saying from 11 to 10:30 or 11 to 12:30, sorry, you're going to be working on, it's going to be an upper day, let's say, or it's going to be a lower day, whatever it really might be. And, for a lot of people, they overthink fitness. Just go to the gym and just try to be able to move your body, right? Now, every single rep counts. You don't just go to the gym just to say that you've gone to the gym. Go to the gym, get a good workout in, make sure you know what you're doing. And then you look at after a little bit of working out for 3 months in a row, you'll see some progress. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's 3 months for sure. Like people quit way before 3 months, but like you have to give yourself
Hmm.
at least 3 months with anything before you quit.
Yeah.
Yeah, go Charl.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Would you consider yourself a frugal person? Because I can only imagine making a substantial amount of money and not be able to spend it. So, can you talk about how you have discipline in your finances at such a young age?
But yeah, that stems from my parents, more specifically, my dad. My dad was someone where we always brought lunches to school. You never stepped into the cafeteria. You really made sure that you're not buying shit that you don't need. And one of the biggest things I start to realize, like, when you start to make more money and a considerable amount of money, you're like, oh, what do I do with all this? And that question, your mind goes two ways. Let me buy a Lamborghini, or let me do something productive with it and put it into something that can actually be put to good use.
Yeah.
And, I speak with my girlfriend a lot about this is, what do we do? Like, what are we going to do with all this? And one of the things we need to realize is, do I need it right now? Right? Do I need the money right now? And so many people get so fixated on a specific number in their bank account. Right? Oh, I've got to have this number in my bank account, and then I'll be secure. Right? I've once was one in that position where I want to have 6 figures in my bank account. I'm at that amount now. I want to be able to get rid of it because I know that it can be put to better uses. So it's really ensuring that I'm not falling into the trap of inflation lifestyle. Right? Not saying that, well, as more money, I'm buying more and more shit. I literally wear the same sweater every single day. Like people probably notice that on my stories. I wear the same exact sweater every day. But it just goes to show that this $70, and I didn't even spend my money on this. My girlfriend actually bought me this. But it just goes to show that I don't got Gucci in my closet. It's just a ton of black shirts. That's basically all it is. But for a lot of people, they look at, social media, they'll see, the Abu Dhabi lifestyles, they'll see different things in terms of, buying Louis V bags and Gucci bags and shoes and all this different types of stuff. But I'm able to understand that how powerful money really is. And if you
Yeah.
can put your money to the proper places, it can be able to grow substantially for you. Right? And Charl, I know when you mentioned to me, like, I actually joined into, your investing club there, it was like, I don't know, $6. And you said $6 to change your life, or you go ahead and spend your money at Starbucks. Right? Little things like that.
I forgot I
Little,
said that.
right.
That's such a Charl thing to say.
Little things like that are what people need to implement. And what we need to think about is like, look, these are things that can help you produce a significant amount of income over a short-term gratification. So many people are in it for short-term, right? I want this now. But if you can sacrifice the short-term, you think about it in the long term, what you've been realizing is the little increments of short-term sacrifice that you made will have significant long-term impacts.
Yeah.
Facts.
That's a
Facts.
bar.
Did you guys have any other questions for Shayne?
No, let's hit the Jay-Z.
Jay-Z
Oh
or
yeah.
500? Jay-Z or 500K?
Jay-Z or 500K? 500K. No,
And
just
why?
joking. No, I would actually go with Jay-Z because you look at everything that Jay-Z has
Damn,
built.
the last three people.
The last three
Holy
people. That's it. That's the last time I ask this question.
Well, here's the thing, right? Is when, and everybody has their own reasons, but you look at everything that Jay-Z has built, that takes a special type of individual. Right? Like that's something else, regardless of the fact if he was producing hip hop or not before then. The dude is a serial entrepreneur, whether you like to hear it or not. Same thing with 50, right? 50 Cent is the same exact thing. So you begin to realize, like, you might look at these people as, your favorite people who have your favorite songs, but at the same time, like, they've been able to build something for themselves, a lot bigger than just, whatever it may be. Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot bigger than 500K.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
Shout out Shayne, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, well,
We've
thank
been
you for your
wanting to talk
time.
to you for a while, and it's good to finally speak to an FBM seller for once.
Yeah, guys, it's my pleasure, and I appreciate you having me on and giving me the opportunity to speak to your audience.
Yeah, it was
For
a really
sure.
nice episode. We really
Good
appreciate
episode.
your time.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for watching the Untold Gems podcast. Go follow Shayne. What's your
Oh
IG?
yeah, where can they find you?
Where can they find you?
Shayne.Ecom, SHAYNE.ecom, ECOM on Instagram.
Perfect. Thank you for watching and subscribing. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and we will see you all next week.
Bye, guys.